and their moral right to rule has been eroded.
If Nigeria looks to be dying and we're the ones burying it, what we need to do quickly is to admit that our young people are the ones who will take Nigeria to the future.
If you engage the youth meaningfully, create opportunities for them to be employed, self-employed, and employ other people, you won't have to share 10,000, 50,000 naira to anybody.
As leaders, they have displayed a total lack of empathy and accountability in governance.
We operate a big local government where the president is the local government chairman.
Thanks for staying with us. On the alleged hoarding of palliatives, residents of Jos in the Plateau State capital have accused the state government of hoarding palliatives supposed to be distributed to the poor. The residents in their thousands looted the warehouse located along the Jos-Bukuru Express Road.
What is going on here today in Jos is man's government inhumanity to citizens of this country. Because you can just imagine the palliatives that were given to citizens during the lockdown for government to distribute during and after the lockdown. It was, they all hoarded these palliatives. And you can see the reactions from citizens. Poor citizens that have been impoverished with poverty, and then you are expecting them not to react.
It's very wicked. Can you imagine the amount of food that is there? They just left it there. Haba, Nigeria. They will come, they want us to elect them. After election, they will be storing food in the warehouses. They will not give us food for us to eat. Why now?
Now, without supporting the act of the looting, if really those items are for the masses and a bid to ease off the pandemic, why really were they not shared is another question for the government. Now, in Plateau State, security operatives is said to have arrested several vandals responsible for the looting of the Plateau Agricultural Development Program office in the state. The vandals defied a 24-hour curfew placed by the state government, looting several facilities, including the state COVID-19 storage warehouse.
They succeeded in opening one of the gates and then packed some of the greens and flour meal we made for them that they're about to pack it. And then the warehouse 5 that we give it out for business people to store their fertilizer. They removed the 2 gates and then packed themselves into the warehouse, and then I think almost evacuate all the fertilizers that they were stored inside. And then also we have the warehouse 4 there. I think we give it out for an individual businessman, and he put some tires, both trucks and then small cars. They also succeeded in opening it and packed some of his tire.
And in Osun State, security operatives have arrested some suspected thieves in Osogbo who have looted offices and houses. This is just as security operatives took over major towns in the state to forestall further breakdown of law and order.
Going all over the towns. They were in Ilesha, they were in the whole of Osogbo. They bombarded everywhere, looting, stealing, burglary, and stealing all over the place. This is uncalled for. This is purely criminal. It is no longer EndSARS protest. This is a determined act to steal, to loot.
Still on Osun State, Osun Health Insurance Scheme in Osogbo said goods and valuables worth more than 120 million naira have been lost to last weekend's looting and vandalization in Osogbo. Executive Secretary of the Osun Health Insurance Scheme, Adeyin Oguni, stated this after taking journalists around the affected areas in the agency.
It is with a very heavy heart that we announce the vandalization of offices and carting away of electronics, ICT equipment, office furniture, and medicines by hoodlums who attacked our agency on 24th October 2020. We appeal to all residents of the state and all landlords who see electronic equipment, computers, printers, furniture, generators, laptops, refrigerators, and medicines being brought into their houses to please call on any security operative in their environment. Like Mr. Governor has said, that anyone who reports any of such, goods within 72 hours, they will be pardoned.
Well, away from that now, the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, has reiterated the federal government's commitment to connecting major cities across the country by rail. The minister, while presenting a keynote lecture at the Defense War College in Abuja, said the mode of transportation will reduce the costs and challenges faced with moving goods across the country.
What's happening from Kaduna to Kano, the rail line from Kaduna to Kano. The rail line we're waiting for funds that will start by first quarter next year, is to start from Ibadan to Kano. But at Kaduna, we have military formation and we must go through it. So what does it do for you? Quick intervention. Let's assume that Nigeria is under attack in Abuja and they want to move troops from Kaduna from Kaduna outside of Abuja. What happens? Just provide the train and in 1 hour, 30 minutes to 2 hours, they should be found in Abuja.
Well, we stay expectant then and can't wait to have it actualized. And finally, on road infrastructure, the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, called for the support of the Senate in completing abandoned road projects nationwide. Fashola, during a budget defense section of the Senate, said the request to build more roads across the country is currently overwhelming the ministry.
All of the routes that have been mentioned have one thing in common with them. We can't pay. All of the roads, except the Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Kano road, which I will, all the other roads have something in common with them. We can't pay. We cannot continue like this. This is the time to say no more new projects. Let us focus our resources on what we have. Mr. Chairman, distinguished senators, this is a list of photocopies of requests that we get on a daily basis. More roads every day. So if our revenues as a family are not increasing and we are committing to more things, our capacity to even solve what we have committed to will diminish.
Sadly, many projects have been reportedly abandoned in the past, while those already completed have been poorly maintained. And that's it on Plus Report. Do follow us on Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. I'm Jacinta Obiuku. Thanks for watching.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment. There's another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Many thanks for joining us on News in the Hour on Plus TV Africa.
State government has approved a bill for the establishment of State Security Network Agency, Amoteco.
We have the highest number of extremely poor people in the world.
He's not concerned about lecturers that are raping students that are under their care. He's concerned about them being stigmatized.
And I can tell you that he will get the result in full measure. He cannot avoid responsibility.
Why the focus on Africa at this point?
The news only cover, one side of Africa, so we always felt like the picture is incomplete, so we need the whole picture.
65% of these people, whom we term as the urban poor, live in settlements, otherwise known as slums.
This is just the tip of the iceberg of the road situations in Lagos, from the mainland to the island.
It's been a closed-door security meeting as the retreat for senior police officers hits day 3.
There's this basket or there's this bowl that we all come to the center to pick from. Everybody has to see Nigeria as an investment vehicle, not as a distributive mechanism.
Still on the foreign scenes, Russia has flatly denied allegations that is spreading disinformation about the new coronavirus outbreak on social media.
Australian Open debutant Coco Gauff defeated defending champion Naomi Osaka in 2 straight sets.
Kenneth Okonkwo, Kanayo and Bob Manuel Udoku have been conferred with the Veteran Actor of Nigeria Award.
This is Plus TV Africa.
Plus TV Africa.
Plus TV Africa.
Big stories live here.
The power of the people is stronger than the people in power.
True power is in the vote, in voting.
I'm afraid that these recent events have exposed the current government as out of touch with the people, and their moral right to rule has been eroded.
If Nigeria looks to be dying and we're the ones burying it, what we need to do quickly is to admit that our young people are the ones who will take Nigeria to the future.
If you engage the youth meaningfully, create opportunities for them to be employed, self-employed, and employ other people, you won't have to share 10,000, 50,000 naira to anybody.
As leaders, they have displayed a total lack of empathy and accountability in governance.
We operate a big local government where the president is the local government chairman.
A very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us for another package here on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. My name is Felicity Ezewike.
And I am Osaogi Ogbon. A few more steps into the month of November, and looking forward to what news stories that we can talk about this morning.
Yeah, it doesn't look cheery at all. There's always some gloom and doom.
I'm desperate for a better month. I'm desperate for better stories across the country. I mean,
sometimes people say you do selective attention given, so you can have some semblance of a peace inside your head. All right, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State denies sending soldiers to kill Igbos in Oyigbo Local Government Council. He, however, insists that he will not let his state be balkanized by criminal elements.
There's a governor at war against IPOB members. What exactly is going on in Rivers State? Answers will be provided on The Breakfast today. Also on the show, we'll be taking a look at the EndSARS protesters returning to the streets of Abuja.
This move has been greeted with mixed reactions. Find out more on The Breakfast this morning. We will start things off quickly with the story I think we'll start the conversation looking at the situation in Rivers State. The governor is pretty worried, and there are accusations that he's sending military, which is to kill people. And he's like, how is it possible that I will send people to kill my own people? You know, and
yeah, I think we'll definitely open up that conversation on the show this morning.
Yeah.
But there's also a couple of things that make it difficult these days, you know, because if you remember, the governor of Lagos State made similar statements until, you know, there was now the army saying, oh, you called us in. You know, so when the governor of Rivers State says, oh, you know, I have no power over the army, and, you know, at the same time saying that, you know, I'm not going to let criminal elements to balkanize my state.
The narratives really seems skewed. We'll have our guest help us make sense of some of the, you know, occurrences there.
Exactly.
All right, we'll go on a short break. We'll come back and we begin to unbundle some of these news stories. Don't go away.
The power of the people is stronger than the people in power.
True power is in the vote, in voting.
I'm afraid that these recent events have exposed the current government as out of touch with the people, and their moral right to rule has been eroded.
If Nigeria looks to be dying and we're the ones burying it, what we need to do quickly is to admit that our young people are the ones who will take Nigeria to the future.
If you engage the youth meaningfully, create opportunities for them to be employed, self-employed, and employ other people, you won't have to share 10,000, 50,000 naira to anybody.
As leaders, they have displayed a total lack of empathy and accountability in governance.
We operate a big local government where the president is the local government chairman.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast. The Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, said he never ordered the military to kill Igbos in Oyibo local government area of the state, describing the allegation as untrue and politically motivated. The governor stated that the curfew imposed on the local government was to restore calm in the area after members of the proscribed Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, killed 6 soldiers, 4 policemen, and destroyed all police stations and court buildings in the area. Governor Wike gave the explanation on a live television program in Port Harcourt on Monday. The governor said the narrative that Igbos were being killed by the military is intended to shift attention from the despicable activities of IPOB in Oyibo, which is a boundary area adjoining Abia State.
If you say because I'm fighting a gang of criminals, and then you allude that of fighting Igbos, okay, so be it. So be it. I will not fold my hands to allow criminals destroy my state. It's because you say I love the Igbos. If those criminals, few criminals are Igbos, then they should know that I will not allow them. But the real Igbos, the Igbos know too well that they have, in fact, in this state, they voted for me very well. They supported me very well. So it is difficult. It's unthinkable. But I will not agree that people will form a group to destroy my state. Not only destroy my state, even annexing my state as part of what they are thinking of. I will not agree to that. Or renaming. I will not agree to that.
Joining us now to look at developments in Rivers State is Uche Okuku, the Secretary General Ohanaeze Ndigbo. A pleasure to have you join us on The Breakfast this morning.
Yes, sir.
I said thank you for joining us on The Breakfast this morning. We want to take your reaction. Before we take your reaction to what the governor is saying, we want to have a sense of what is going on in Rivers, Oyibo precisely.
Well, what is the development in Oyibo? The development there is unfortunate and sad. pray that it does not get to a humanitarian crisis.
Okay, what is your reaction to the governor's comments and his current handling of the situation there?
Well, my appeal to the governor is to understand that not all residents in the local government are members of IPOP. And not all of them are members of IPOP. And it is important at this stage to temper justice with mercy and lift the curfew, or in the alternative, impose curfew for some hours, say from 6 p.m. in the evening to 6 a.m. in the morning. But to impose 24 hours curfew is unfair in the circumstance.
Sorry to interject, Salgi, but you don't believe that the situation and the events and the deaths that have occurred in that area necessitated the action? You don't think that action is justified?
The action cannot be justified. The action to impose a 24-hour curfew cannot be justified. Because at the time the curfew was imposed, only 30 minutes notice was given, and most people do not have food, water, and medicine in their house. And of course, you know, under this COVID period, there is still poverty, and people don't have money even to buy. Even when there is notice, people don't have money to buy enough. So if you consider the fact that you have women, you have children, you have the aged, who are not in any way members of the IPOP, while trying to get to arrest the IPOP suspect or ensure that those who bombed the police station and those who killed the policemen are apprehended, you cannot punish the old, you cannot punish the young, you cannot punish the aged, the sick, particularly pregnant women. You cannot. It is unfair. It cannot. The action of the governor cannot be supported by logical reason.
All right. I'm going to ask, because apparently most of the events in the last few days in Ndigbo have been seemingly shrouded in some level of secrecy. The governor of course, has made his statements claiming that 6 soldiers were killed, 4 policemen also were killed, all the police stations were burnt, courthouses were burnt also. Can you give us some level of clarity what exactly has happened in Rivers State in the last few days? Is there any truth to what the state governor has said with the killing of soldiers and policemen? And have members of the IPOB also lost their lives? Have all residents also lost their lives to this violence?
Well, the governor is speaking from a position of the chief security officer. And of course, he's relying on information given to him by the police, the army, and other security agencies. I'm not in a position to say he's right or wrong. The truth is that undeniably police stations were bombed, some policemen were killed, and IPOP had claimed that some IPOP members and other residents in Ndigbo were killed. As I said earlier, the whole situation is sad and it's unfortunate because nothing can justify the loss of human life. I sympathize Ohanaeze Ndigbo commensurate with those members of the families of those who lost their life, and we commensurate with those the bereaved. We pray God Almighty to heal the wounds in the hospital. But as I've said, all these things put together cannot justify 24-hour curfew on a local government area. A local government area with over 400 to 500,000 people. We cannot justify it. My brother, are you saying that, or will you not state clearly that pregnant women are not members of IPOP? Children of less than 5 years, 10 years are not members of IPOP? The age from 70 to 90 years are not members of IPOP? the disabled, the crippled, the blind, the dumb, the deaf? Are they members of IPOP? What of those that are in hospital who are sick? Are they members of IPOP?
All right,
Will you impose a copy that will
come
lead
back
to
to
their own
you,
death?
Mr. Okuku.
That is the situation that we don't accept.
All right, Mr. Okuku, we will come back to you to really dissect the situation with IPOB and what is going on in that particular area that necessitated 24 hours curfew. Just stay on the line. We'll go on the short break. Conversation continues afterwards.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment. There's another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
And welcome back to the breakfast. We're still having a conversation with Uche Ukuku, the Secretary General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo. And of course, it's a discussion on the events or the things that have been happening in Oyibo River State in the last few days. Mr. Okuku, you mentioned, or your concerns really have centered around the 24-hour curfew in that local government area and how it affects the residents. You've also mentioned that not every resident in Oyibo is an IPOB member. But I want your thoughts on how you would, rather have the governor handle a situation that seems to be getting out of hand, according to what has been described. If police stations have been burned, if, security agents have lost their lives, how else would you have suggested that the governor addresses those issues as it stands?
Mr. Okuku, can you hear us? Do we still have Mr. Okuku? I think we sort of lost him for a moment. But after you asked, I was actually going to ask him again. We know now from the governor that a particular area local government was renamed by IPOB. And he is saying, what kind of effrontery would necessitate people to take such stands? He also talked about, unraveling people who had shrines with photos, all those kind of
placing I also heard about placing a bounty on the head of the governor, and so there's so much.
So much. We don't even really have a clear picture as to what's going on there. But for the curfew, I understand the concern being raised by Mr. Ukuku. But then again, you worry these same innocent people might fall victim in a crossfire between people that say they are IPOB members and military officers. We already know that some persons have lost their life. The loss of one life, I don't know about other people, but the loss of one life should matter to every person. We saw what the U.S. did when one citizen was kidnapped.
The thing that, I'm hoping that we'll be able to establish this morning is, and earlier I said that the events or the happenings in Oyibo seem to be shrouded in some level of secrecy. I'm still not sure. Declaring a curfew is one thing, but what happens in the period when there is a curfew? The allegations of people being murdered. I've seen words like a massacre going on in that local government area that we still don't have any verification of.
One would be careful so we don't,
Exactly,
yes.
But I need to know what is happening after the curfew has been declared.
Is
a challenge.
From my understanding of the curfew that we had, I mean, the one we had here in Lagos State, the governor said essential people on essential duty, maybe doctors, people that are conveying food to places, pharmacies should be
essential
open.
workers, yes, no
essential
doubt.
workers. What we don't know what the situation is now. I understand we have Femi Lawson. Do we have you?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. He's just joining us on the conversation for the first time, but we've had Mr. Uche Ukuku, the Secretary General Ohanaeze Ndigbo. He's been talking with us on developments in Rivers State. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning. Just before you came on, let's bring you in, Mr. Lawson. What do you make of what is going on in Rivers State? A 24-hour curfew over allegation of killing of officers and the activities of the proscribed IPOB people in that area. What's your thinking?
It's a very sad development, and in every situation, even in a war situation, there will always be exemption. The report from Ohanaeze in Rivers State has not been impressive because that total lockdown, 24-hour curfew, in its own way, has taken a negative toll, not only of those with the targeted act, but other citizens who have their legitimate duties, who have their legitimate rights, to move, and who also have very serious needs to be attended to. It should be noted that for those periods, not even a pregnant woman can go to the hospital. The sick were restricted to their home. Even it came to a point that people cannot even feed any longer. I expected that the government should have taken an approach that would be sensitive enough to the need of others. Because the truth is that it is not everyone in that area that are members of this IPOB that the governor said to sanction, is targeted at. And I think that is one fundamental issue that the Rivers State government failed to address in taking that decision.
Femi Lawson, I want your thoughts on how you feel the governor should be addressing the issues concerning the IPOB. If the allegations are true that they have killed police officers, they've killed soldiers, they've burned police stations, how would you suggest that the governor should be able to handle those issues, without, of course, being dictatorial or abusing the rights of other residents of the local government area?
Yeah, government at all times, especially in this period, must understand that we are running a democracy. And it is not a government where a dictator can stand up and take decisions without checks and balances. If there have been, violence perpetrated by a particular sect of people, it should have been the duty of government to use the instrumentality of intelligence and intelligence gathering to arrest and meet those people who are responsible for this act of violence. The truth is that if you look at the percentage of people who are perpetrating this violence that have been alleged, they are not going to be even in the proportion of up to 5% of the total population, of that local government that have been placed under restriction. And what does this mean? It means that government on its own part excels in the area of intelligence gathering and security, while imposing sanctions on people who ordinarily are innocent and are not supposed to be placed under the sanction of the offense committed by a group of people. I had expected that the governor would have worked with the security agencies to, of course, do intelligence gathering, make possible arrest and prosecution of perpetrators of this violence. They are not ghosts. They are human beings. They are visible. They can be traced. They know them. Rather than placing an entire population under lockdown for this number of periods, thereby causing hardship, untold hardship on people, including children and women, who have no business with this group that you are fighting.
All right, let me come back to you, Mr. Okuku. Before we went on that break, we're talking about the activities of, you were, emphasizing the fact that not all members of the community are members of IPOB. That sentiment seemed to be shared by Mr. Lawson. It's almost like you are of the opinion that the governor is, killing a fly with a sledgehammer, so to speak. My question is, there is a particular concern that was raised by Governor Wike. He talked about the effrontery of the group to hoist a flag in a public school and rename a local government inside the state. If you were in his position, would you take this lying low? And what would be a decisive action to reclaim control of your environment?
What would be the recommended action the governor should take?
Yes, sir.
Well, IPOB has been proscribed. IPOB is an illegal organization in Nigeria. At least that is the position of the law. I'm a lawyer by training, and I'm a lawyer for more than 25 years at the bar. So the position of the law is that IPOB has been proscribed. I am not opposed to any action that will bring IPOB to an end. I'm not opposed to it. But what I'm opposed to is an action that will bring the life of hundreds, thousands of persons to an end who are not even members of the IPOB. Even if you're a member of IPOB and you have committed a crime, you are still entitled to the right to fair trial. You have to bring them to justice and put them on trial in a court of law, in a competent court of law. That is the position. Even members of the Al-Qaeda, even members of the Bin Laden group that were involved in the bombing of United States World Trade Center were brought to trial in the U.S. and other places. So you cannot equally take steps to violate the right to life of a citizen because you believe he has committed a crime. But we are talking about a situation that will lead to humanitarian crisis. That is the situation at hand. If you don't allow people to have access to water, if you don't allow people to have access to food and medicine, they are bound to die. It's not a situation that has led to humanitarian crisis. That is the situation at hand. And I'm concerned because more than 95 to 99% of all the people in Obi are Igbos. And as the Secretary General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, I'm speaking for them if they cannot speak for themselves. They are Igbos. Not every Igbo man supports IPOB. I, talking to you, Nnamdi Kanu have threatened to flog me in public. They have threatened to flog me in public. He had insulted Igbo leaders, Ojo Sokano, Rocha Sokorocha, Nneawodo, in the past. He has threatened to kill members of the Ohanaeze Ndigbo. He has said more horrible things about Igbo leaders. And the first place IPOB was proscribed was in the 5 southeastern states. The governors of the southeastern states proscribed IPOB. So we are not condoning his activities at all. I have condemned his verbal attacks on the governor of Lagos State. I've condemned his attack on the properties of Asiwaju, the former governor of Lagos State, Bola Tinubu. I condemn that myself. We are condemning his activities, and we agree that he has almost turned himself a terrorist, and he must be brought to justice. But we cannot keep quiet when you post 24-hour copy of a local government area that he posts, and you have to put the government on a duty to ensure that in course of this crisis, the life of innocent people are protected. That is what I'm saying.
All right. The question I was actually, the response I was looking for was a better way. I think that question has been repeated in different frames since we started this conversation. But I think we need to put on record here and get your reaction to it. The governor's vehement denial that he targeted Igbos, that he is killing Igbos. And there is actually a video of him saying, how can he possibly be killing his own people? What do you make of that? Is that reassuring enough for you? And what actions should follow such comments?
You said the governor said he denied killing people. Huh?
Yes.
It's
Denied.
about changing the narrative about an attack against Igbos in Rivers State. How do you react to that? The governor saying that he has not been attacking Igbo people in any way, and how do we fix that narrative that this is an attack against Igbos?
Well, I'm an equal man like the governor. I'm from a community called Elele. The governor is from Roma Precom. He has an Igbo community. There is an Igbo. I'm an Ikwere, so I'm an Igbo. And I'm saying here, for record purposes, that Ikweres are Igbos. And I need to be reported for it. So if I say Ikweres are Igbos, I say the governor is an Igbo man. And I have no apologies for some of the things I've said and to what I continue to say. But what? He's not killing Igbos. He's not targeting Igbos. So he cannot be targeting himself. The governor cannot be targeting his own people. He cannot be targeting his people. But by omission or commission, an action can lead to the death of a people. By action or omission, by commission or omission, what you are doing can lead to the death of a people. And if that happens, then your action or by omission or commission will be leading to the death of peoples.
Let me go to Femi Lawson now. I want your thoughts on the allegations of Nnamdi Kanu placing a bounty on the governor of Rivers State. And also, what would you expect the presidency to be doing at a time like this? If we're talking about the loss of lives of Nigerian citizens, if we're talking also on the attack on security agencies, the governor himself, of course, as chief security officer of the state, yes, but we all sure also know that he doesn't control the army. So would you expect word from the presidency at a time like this as it stands?
First and foremost, I think our people, particularly the young people of the Southeast and those other parts where the Igbos are resident, should be very much of the character called Nnamdi Kanu. He cannot sit in faraway Europe and be breaking, violence in his homeland of Nigeria. He cannot see if he is genuine about this struggle. It should have been expected that he would be at home to lead some of these, things he has been clamoring for. He cannot sit down somewhere and be instigating young people, against the state and against their own community and against their own leaders. It is very unfortunate. And the people have to be very mindful of that character called Nnamdi Kanu. But moving forward, the government has responsibility to protect the citizens. And I don't want to agree in any way with Dr. Wike that he does not know or he does not have hand in the deployment of soldiers. We had a similar story here in Lagos when the government denied knowledge of the invitation of soldiers to Lekki. And today, revelations are out that the governor actually requested for the intervention of soldiers. I think it is not enough that every time we push it on the president, who of course also has a duty anyway to protect lives and citizens of the people. But I think the silence of the federal government on the situation in Obiko is not also encouraging. We expect that by now the president should have spoken on that situation that is affecting a very large population of our citizens. That place is an economic, zone. It's a place where a lot of people do trade. And there have been other lockdown for a good number of days, and even the federal government is acting that nothing is happening, even when its own military are on the ground there. So I think the federal government should not be silent. The president should have at least come out and address the situation. If the governor of Rivers State is denying knowledge, of the deployment of soldiers, then somebody has to take responsibility. Because we cannot perpetually put the people under such hardship in the name of law enforcement. When there are criminals in the society, identify the criminals and deal with them. Not by punishing innocent people, including women and children. It very sad. But once again, I want to say that the young people of the extraction must be weary of the antics of Ndigbo, and they have to be very careful this time around.
All right, let me quickly ask Mr. Okuku. No, this question should go to Mr. Lawson, rather. The larger picture of our security agencies. Mr. Okuku said something earlier about investigating properly instead of, closing down on an entire city. The worry being expressed is that we resort to curfew when intelligence could have helped to fish out, said these people are people that are identifiable. Why do you think we seem to resort to curfew when intelligence could help us fish out these perpetrators, and bring them to book?
Yeah, that's why I said it's a reflection of our intelligence failure as a country. If we have to lock down, a whole community just because we are facing perpetrators of violence. And the question that should be asked is, since the lockdown, since the curfew has been imposed on the people, how many of those perpetrators have been arrested? Rather, we have had a good number of innocent citizens that have been reported killed. Some have even died of hunger, some have died in their sicknesses because they have no access to medical facilities, they have no access to food. And that is why this is a failed approach. And I think it should have been immediately stopped when this tension has gotten to the peak, when women, children are beginning to complain. So it's a failure of intelligence for us to lock down. How many houses are we going to use soldiers to search? And how do we identify who is an iPhone or not? Do they carry ID cards? Do they have their own colors? It should have been a job of the intelligence community to gather intelligence about the characters of people there and arrest those perpetrators, rather than doing a physical stand, which will lead us to nothing than other, the further brutalization of innocent citizens. So I think it's a wrong approach, and it has to end immediately.
All right, finally, let's go to Uche Ukuku. Lastly, I want your thoughts on the Ohanaeze Ndigbo. The tenure of Chief John Nyanwodo will be wrapping up, I think, in December, and a new government will come in from the new year. But I want your thoughts on what Ohanaeze Ndigbo can do at a time like this. In what ways can they step in to mediate or to negotiate or at least to play a fatherly role as the, of course, apex sociocultural group of the Igbos?
Well, Mr. Kayode, thank you very much. First, let me put it on record that when we came to office in January 2017, the first governor that received the leadership of Ohanaeze was Governor Nyesom Wike. So we are grateful to him, we are thankful to him. And then on that note, we understand and appreciate the challenges and difficulties he faces. When Nnamdi Kanu said they should get his head, and then anybody that kills him that will get 100 million. We condemn that in all ramifications. That is condemnable, it's unacceptable. Wike has the right to life. You cannot threaten him, you cannot kill him. We see him as a true friend, we see him as a true ally, we see him as a true brother. So Kanu is on his own. And of course, you will agree with me that in the past, Kanu has threatened to kill many Igbos. He has threatened to kill me, Uche. Kanu has threatened to kill me. Kanu says things that makes...
In the interest of time, Uche Okuku, I just want your thoughts on how Ohanaeze Ndigbo. I understand, you've mentioned this before, that he has threatened Igbo people, he has threatened yourself and Igbo governors. But what I'm asking is, how can Ohanaeze Ndigbo step in now as the fathers of, these young men?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I said all we need to do and will continue to do is to pull our brothers and sisters, persuade them to leave Nnamdi Kanu alone. Nnamdi Kanu's IPOP and what he's doing is unacceptable to Ohanaeze and a greater percentage of Ndigbo and humanity in general. We don't support him. We don't subscribe to what he's doing. We condemn it because what he's doing will put Igbos in trouble in Igbo land and beyond.
All right, Mr. Uche Okuku, thank you very much for joining us on The Breakfast and sharing your thoughts.
Femi Lawson, thank you for joining us also.
Thank you very much.
He didn't quite answer the question as to what Ohanaeze Ndigbo, can bring to the table, because like you rightly identified, they are like the apex Igbo social cultural group, and they have this, they are always vocal about issues. Beyond being vocal, beyond condemning, how can they engage these people?
It's a touchy subject. I worked in the Southeast for about 10 years. I understand how they react towards these conversations. Both the IPOB members and the Ohanaeze Ndigbo members, the governors. I'm even shocked. When I heard Uche Okuku, say things like he said today, condemning Nnamdi Kanu and condemning the IPOB and all of that. Normally in the Southeast, you wouldn't hear them boldly say it out that way. So. I don't know what must be done, but I understand his concerns about the IPOB putting the Igbos in a bad light. But I know that there has to be a way that these things can be sorted out. The loss of lives is in no way the answer to any question and to any challenge. And Governor Wike himself, the Nigerian security agencies, Nnamdi Kanu, wherever he is, Ohanaeze Ndigbo,
There's something he said that was instructive. Mr. Lawson said that if you want to lead a fight, you should start leading from the front. You shouldn't be somewhere and creating chaos in another area that is supposed to be your home. You took refuge somewhere else. Anyway, the conversation
touchy subject,
yes, very touchy, and we're hoping that the situation there will be addressed as soon as possible. The governor also talked about what we're going to be discussing next, and that's the EndSARS protest resuming in Abuja. But in the context that he talked about it, he worried about the damage that had been caused by the protest. And, he sort of said if government had listened to his earlier warnings about the activities of SARS, these protests would have been avoided. He also talked about helping rebuild properties that have been destroyed. But then that is where I have a concern. Even the Lagos state government has said they're going to help people rebuild their businesses. We know these promises come, but do they follow through? We already have cases of people in the hospital who we heard in a public broadcast that their medical bills will be taken care of. They're coming out to say they haven't seen a representative of the government in the time that they've been in the hospital. So when I hear comments that we're going to help rebuild, I face it with a lot of skepticism.
Well, we'll figure it out.
All right.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, more of these conversations, and very likely we're moving into discussions on a renewed EndSARS protest here on The Breakfast. Stay with us.
In a world of overwhelming voices, where everyone has something to say,
it is important that we bring the core issues to the fore.
As we lend our voices to inspire, inform, influence, and provoke your thoughts and action.
We want to hear these issues and know what you are saying.
This is not just women talking.
It is an evocative program that touches the core of our existence.
We take on topics some may consider taboo and want to sweep under the carpet.
We understand that what touches one touches all.
We know you have a lot to say, so let's hear you.
The power of the people is stronger than the people in power.
True power is in the voting.
I'm afraid that these recent events have exposed the current government as out of touch with the people, and their moral right to rule has been eroded.
If Nigeria looks to be dying and we're the ones burying it, what we need to do quickly is to admit that our young people are the ones who will take Nigeria to the future.
If you engage the youth meaningfully, create opportunities for them to be employed, self-employed, and employ other people, you won't have to share 10,000, 50,000 naira to anybody.
As leaders, they have displayed a total lack of empathy and accountability in governance.
We operate a big local government where the president is the local government chairman.
Thank you for staying with us on The Breakfast. We continue this conversation now. We begin with Nigerian youths calling for an end to SARS, to police brutality and extrajudicial killings, taken to the streets of Abuja, painting EndSARS on the floor of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport entrance. The protesters also stormed the headquarters of the Nigerian police force to draw similar graffiti while chanting solidarity songs. In the same vein, the protesters vowed not to back down on their demand for justice for all victims of police brutality in the country, including those that were killed at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos last week. Joining us live to talk about this latest development is Ariwo Dare Atoye, activist, and also joining us is Lemi Urebe, coordinator Make a Difference. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's kick off with your reaction to this continued move. Let me see if I can get a comment from one of the protesters, the coordinators of the protesters, who said the change we want will not be forged on a negotiation table. It will be forged on the streets, no going back. Just to paraphrase. I'll start with you, Ariyo. What is your thinking with this emergence again?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I must first react to the Northern Governor's wrong assertion and uninformed position that the EndSARS protest was designed to, or probably has been hijacked to topple the Nigerian government or undermine the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. There is nothing like that. It's just their figment of imagination. What they've been trying to do is that they are afraid that this could actually make the youth in the north who have been oppressed, deprived, and who are hungry and angry to also seize the moment to also call for reforms in the north.
All right, Ariyo, we will come to that part of the conversation. I want us to take this as chronologically as possible, and that is why I'm asking you your comments to statements like no going back, the demands cannot be found on the negotiating table. What worries you about this latest stance and the re-emergence of the EndSARS protests?
All right, I think
Lemi, could you take it on, please?
Okay.
Hello?
I really must side with the youth in terms of the comment that these demands cannot be by the negotiation table. Because again, it's not a contract negotiation between the youths and the Nigerian government. Instead, the youths have said, among other things, reform the police, end SARS, do not rechrisen SARS as SWAT. There is nothing particularly to negotiate other than really looking at the demands, since the president has already said before now that they have accepted the 5 points demands made by the youth. What they ought to do is to look on their own as government at the possibility of reflecting those demands in the police reforms that has been requested. For instance, what do we want to negotiate when it comes to the welfare of the police, members of the police force? Do we want to negotiate how much they will be paid? Do we want to negotiate the fact that all policemen's life matter and as such, there should be genuine insurance cover for them? Do we want to negotiate about the fact that policemen deserve to be well equipped? Some of these things will end up being just rhetoric when we call the youths. The youths are not asking that they want to be paid. again, the EndSARS protest beyond the police is a symbolism, okay, for also the demand for good governance. Do we want, as government, to call the youths together to also negotiate? There is no meat course when it comes to the demand for good governance, an end to impunity, an end to police brutality, a reform of the police for welfare of the police officers and men to be improved. What negotiation is needed for this? I think government must leave this whole idea of its traditional cause of wanting to distract and detract from the objective of the EndSARS protest. EndSARS protest symbolizes a new awakening of citizenship to its power to call government to account. And that is what the protest has done. It has reawakened even the sleeping older generation to say we must take control of our country again by making government accountable. So I agree that government should go about enforcing these 5 demands rather than calling the youths to a table as though the youths are seeking to negotiate a contract for themselves.
I'm going to go to Dari Atoye now. I want you to continue the conversation from the statements with regards the 5 demands, the 5 for 5, even if there's also a crowd, a group of people who don't even agree with the 5 for 5 in the first place. But let's start with that. I saw yesterday E4I, I think Enough is Enough Nigeria, posting their rating with regards to the implementation of these 5 demands. And the only thing that they left out as not implemented was increase in the salaries of police officers. So I want your thoughts on how much has been achieved that would maybe prevent another EndSARS protest. How much has been achieved with the 5 for 5? And then second, bear in mind, there are still videos showing security agents brutalizing citizens in the last few days. You must have seen the soldier flogging the lady on the floor in public because she was allegedly indecently dressed. You must have heard also of those who had their hair cut, on the streets by also military officers in Ibadan. The whole umbrella of police brutality, I believe, is where the EndSARS protest was going. So how much has been achieved, really, that should prevent another protest?
Well, I must say that whichever intervention that has been made, whatever anything that the police authorities of the government have done, and I think at best is sheer tokenism. We have not seen an holistic intervention or response from the government, even though what's enough is enough has been ticking in terms of ticking the boxes for the 5 for 5. It's just to show that, yeah, the government is doing something and we are actually monitoring what they are doing. But in the real sense of it, this reform is not deep in terms of the way they are going about it. If it is deep, you won't have seen what we have been seeing in the last couple of days. What that means is that if in the middle of those protests, because those protests is on either online or offline, and we are still witnessing this sort of harassment, including moral policing. Now, what we've seen so far, you will know that there is a special now. It has not exposed one thing, that there are a group of people that actually may be giving order to the police or to the soldiers to do what we call moral policing. A soldier man has no right whatsoever to shave the head of another person or to whip a lady for so-called alleged indecent dressing. And this is exactly what we're talking about. The leadership is still not committed. For instance, if based on what happened in the last couple of days, and the president has said that that police officer should be dealt with, that soldier should be apprehended and dealt with, then we will send the right signal. No statement whatsoever from the authorities, even though we heard that the soldier has been, one of the soldiers have been arrested, or the soldiers who harassed the lady have been arrested. But it must go beyond that. As far as I'm concerned, the 5 for 5, the implementation is still being done in a piecemeal without any full and total commitment. And the most paramount aspect of this is the welfare of our police officers. No policeman should have less than 100,000 in today's Nigeria. I repeat, no police officer should earn less than 100,000 in today's Nigeria. What about life insurance? What about medical insurance? What about other needs that are very important for this police? They are human beings like us. They deserve the best from our country. They deserve the best for our nation. Now we see that the policemen are saying they don't want to go on the street to do one or two things. Blame their superiors and the government for it. Because it was this same government that told them to stand down when agents of the government brought in thugs to harass EndSARS protesters. Now, the thugs that they brought in now turned out to be, their own albatross, because the leadership of the police authority, the leadership of Nigerian police did nothing when thugs were ferried into Abuja and some other places. They told this police officer to stand down. And when you give a foothold to evil, evil will mutate, evil will spread, and evil will even undo you that has allowed you to have a foothold. That's what these people don't understand. By allowing evil to thrive in our society, how do you explain the ferrying of of a hoodlum and passing through Aso Drive where you have the yellow house, that's the DSS headquarters, and nobody stopped them, nobody apprehended these hoodlums, they ferried them into Abuja? They should expect a backlash. And today, these same people have turned around to burn police stations, to loot and to kill, because some of them have scores even to settle some of those police officers. Now they want to blame EndSARS protesters, and which is not true. So what we are saying is this. The reason why some youth are again back on the street is just to remind them that, look, we know the kind of government that we have in Nigeria. After a while, they will leave it. They believe there's another issue will crop up that will allow them to actually, put aside whatever the agitation is. And that is why initially when I started this conversation, I condemned what the Northern governor said about the issue of EndSARS, because what they are trying to do is to create an atmosphere for treason, which is capable of being used to arrest EndSARS protesters and those.
All right, hold on, Mr. Atoye.
That was why I started on that premise.
He really wants to speak about that, so we'll just let you go ahead.
Go on,
and
let him go
just
on.
to create a clarity to what he is referencing, there was a communique by the Northern leaders who are alleging that separatists hijacked the EndSARS protest and that they were targeting a regime change. That's the position of the Northern elders, and they dismissed the EndSARS protests as being subversive. So go ahead, Mr. Dare Atoye, your position is a condemnation, but could you broaden that up a bit?
Yes, thank you very much for this. You see, people must understand the political intricacy of what the Northern governors are trying to play on. What they are simply doing is this. I can understand their pain and frustration, and it's because they have shown incapacity to govern and to lead their own people. Therefore, because when you look at the North today, you see millions and millions of angry and frustrated youth. They are afraid that this tsunami, a tsunami that will soon come one day, will actually erupt on the North and will hit them, and there will be a break in the dam of these frustrated young people. So what they are trying to do is that by they tried a religious connotation, now they are bringing politics into it, accusing the EndSARS protesters of trying to topple the government. All of this, they're trying to revolve this around the fact that to buy sentiment. What they are doing is that they are just buying time. They can't stop what is going to come in the North if there is no good governance. So I can understand this conspiracy from the Northern governors alleging the EndSARS protesters of trying to undermine the government. In the middle of those protests, some governors were accused of ferrying thugs into Abuja. The reason being that they wanted to use this, turn it into a North versus South thing, to turn it into an ethno-religious thing. And that is why the isolated cases where we have seen in some states are being used, as a basis, to define this protest as a religious thing or a North versus South thing. It is totally untrue. Christian Muslims, North, South, have been at the receiving end of EndSARS, of SARS operatives, of police brutality, and they must keep it at that. So it is a fight back from this ravenous ruling elite who are making our country simply ungovernable by misgovernance, because we should blame them. And that is why again they are also trying to attack the social media. Did the social media contribute to banditry that is affecting the North? Let's tell ourselves the truth. Was social media used to topple Nigerian government in 1983 when General Buhari, plotted coup? Was social media there? These people don't want to face the reality that there is bad governance, misgovernance, and they should not blame EndSARS. EndSARS has come to expose all the fault lines that is actually in our nation. And we are telling them that police brutality must stop.
Right,
and the northern governors should forget about whatever scheming they are trying to do. It will not work. And at best,
I want to quickly step in here. Okay, all right, thank you. I want to quickly step in here and let's bring in Mr. Lemi Ugegbe once again. I want you to share your thoughts on the judicial panel of inquiry that, of course, has been set up in different states. Do you think that the protesters should have faith in those panels of inquiry and hold on?
Okay, when the National ECOSO do, because again, land brutality and sundry issues with federal agencies that are only answerable to the federal one. And you would see that this point that I made and I'm making again came to the fore when the Nigerian army said they were not going to make themselves available to the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry because they do not take orders from Lagos State. The whole idea of setting up panels, if you want to set a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, because again, the judicial panel, it will amount to a trial. So after all of the back and forth, it will end up maybe a panel that makes recommendation for this person's trial or that person's trial. But already, the Nigerian army, to come account for its ignominious role in the Lekki shooting and killings, okay, has said we will not make ourselves available because we are not answerable.
Do you think the EndSARS protesters see these things?
Is at the federal level, perhaps. They setting up.
Let me hold on. What I'm trying to get is, do you think the EndSARS protesters see these points that you are making, and that's one of the reasons they may not be willing to back down? Mr. Ugegbe, can you hear us?
Okay, I think the network was already acting up just before. We'll wait to get him back. Okay, can you hear us now? Okay.
So I was saying that at best, because the agencies that are sought to be investigated are federal agencies, not subject to the state governments, we need to know that one, which directed that they set it up, lacks the power to so do. National Economic Council deals with issues of the economy. So ordinarily, they can derive the power to set up from the Federal Executive Council as chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari. That's one. Two, I mentioned that the fact that the Nigerian army already said they are not even responding to Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry also goes to show why it is just going to be a normal jamboree where they lack the power of force to even summon anybody from the Nigerian army. And they need to, if we are going to deal and get past the EndSARS protest, the ignominious role the Nigerian army in willfully, deliberately shooting and killing Nigerian citizens, holding onto the Nigerian flag and singing the national anthem. They must be brought to book, they must be brought to justice. And the way they did, even the chief of army staff in a society where the rule of law, where good governance, where civility are the values that we play up, the Nigerian the chief of army staff should no longer be on seat, even if just for the Lekki killings.
All right.
However, we are still playing the ostrich. We are still playing semantics. We are still playing with the lives of Nigerians as if they don't matter. They do matter. The Nigerian youths have insisted that this time they are not going to shoot their shot. But candidly speaking, so they do not accuse the Nigerian youths, the EndSARS protesters, of being the ones who did not give them time to implement the 5 demands. It is my candid view that we take this off the street and engage government intellectually, even though I dare say that the president and his minders, I do not know if they even appreciate that level of engagement.
Okay, Mr.
Because
Ogebe,
again,
we need to give
we
some
are
talk
seeing
time
that
to
while
Mr.
asking for
Dare.
an end to police brutality.
All right, we need to give some talk time to Mr. Dare Atoye. Quickly, just referencing what we talked about earlier on the Northern Governor's position about the EndSARS. There's been some reaction, and I want to take your thinking on it. Afenifere, Pandev, Ohanaeze Ndigbo have spoken. Even the EndSARS protesters have been quoted as saying Northern leaders lack understanding of issues. And then we also had the Ohanaeze saying restructuring has started. Northern leaders cannot stop it. What do you make of these reactions? Are they things that, are they kinds of conversation we should be having, or this is a distraction from the purpose of the EndSARS protests?
Well, let me say that it's not just a distraction. It's an attempt to probably take away the core issues, or to water down, and also to give it a different coloration. Look, the Niger Delta, the agitators in the Niger Delta have said that we're also going to fight for justice, that you cannot be restructuring Nigeria piecemeal and be granting a state like Zamfara State the opportunity to control its own resources, like the mining of gold and selling same to the federal government. And I support the Niger Delta 100% on this, that if Zamfara can have the control of its own gold, Niger Delta should have a control of its own oil. And I believe that part of the reasons why they are making all this kind of a statement is also to distract from that, because they are afraid of what is to come. The North is playing a very bad politics, and they have their own as the president. They should also forget that post-Buhari regime, when a Southerner becomes the president of Nigeria, they are going to lack the premise to be able to criticize that government because of this kind of this divisive narrative they are currently selling. But one thing I want to tell them is this: the EndSARS struggle is clean. The EndSARS struggle is real. Police brutality is happening daily, including probably maybe this morning. And they are not feeling the heat. They are not at the receiving end, these leaders, so-called leaders, who are speaking as if they don't understand what is going on in the country. They leave from their AC room to their AC car to their AC offices. They move from their state to Abuja to come and dine and wine. Some of them have not visited the local government, some of the local governments in their own state. This is a region, the North, especially the Northwest, that banditry is eating into that place every day. And they are not solving problem. And their problem is EndSARS. EndSARS that is fighting police brutality. I hope they will come together, and face the problem of hunger, the problem of insecurity that is ravaging, the North, right, instead of them, trying to score political points.
To wrap things up, I'm told we have very little time left, and I want you to speak on the start of this conversation, and that's the resumption of protests in Abuja. Some of the respondents that reacted to the commencement of the protests expressed worry that the resumed street demonstration could lead to another security clampdown on innocent civilians, and they say it is unfair to make others suffer when we are not sure what the outcome of the protests would be. How would you react to this? And if you can do it in 30 seconds, I'll be very grateful.
Nigerians should not be worried about the latest action of concerned youth in Abuja. What they are trying to do is to paint EndSARS in strategic location to remind the people in authority. It is not any sort of confrontation. The right to protest, the right to associate, the right to gather, are still enshrined in our constitution, has not been taken away from us. Nobody should be worried. It is the people in authority that are trying to give this a different coloration, including their agents in the social media. So please, Nigerians, what is going on is not an affront, it's not an assault. It is a demonstration of youth concern that EndSARS is EndSARS and EndSARS must work.
All right. Thank you, Ario Dare Atoye and Lemi Ugegbe, for both joining us and being a part of this conversation. Looking forward to another one with you both.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yeah, I don't know. The protesters are still innocent citizens, regardless of how we see it. But something that I would say is, a society without justice would always have turmoil, would always have these things. The government has admitted that 50+ people died during the EndSARS protest. We're not going to get justice for those people in judicial panels of inquiry or in panels or in negotiating tables. There's multiple videos that you must have seen, and the government, of course, must have also seen.
Yeah, but there must be a process, Osawage.
Yeah, but
we cannot
this is
say,
why...
even when there is a war, both angry parties still sit at a table and have a conversation as to the way forward, continuing.
So if you remember, weeks ago we spoke about, and I keep mentioning the body language of the government. The body language of the government doesn't show a government that really is desperate to fix the issues. The body language of the government doesn't seem to listen. There's so much information that is online and that is available. And if these cases aren't taken with the urgency that is needed to take them to show that, yes, we are sorry that these people lost their lives and we want the people who killed them to face justice, then it's really not going
to... On that, I completely agree with
Yesterday,
you. There must be evidence that they really want justice to be given. Just to quickly wrap this up, there's something you cited while you were questioning one of the guests, and that's that in spite of the EndSARS protest, we still have videos of officers, molesting civilians. I think this should not be taken with any sort of levity. The security agencies must rise up, and not just enough to announce that they've been arrested. That's what we hear. After the arrest, what follows? So like you said, expedited action is what will bring an end to these protests.
Body language. That's really what it is. If the body language of the government doesn't show that they are now angry enough, like the citizens have been angry, if they now don't show that they will start to take these things more seriously, we don't need to campaign for 3 days on Twitter to get one soldier arrested for such a terrible thing that he did. Nobody needs a Twitter campaign anymore if the government has started to take these things seriously.
All right, the breakfast will continue after this short break. Don't go away.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Cross Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa.
State government has approved a bill for the establishment of State Security Network Agency, Amoteco.
We have the highest number of extremely poor people in the world.
He's not concerned about lecturers that are raping students that are under their care. He's concerned about them being stigmatized.
And I can tell you that he will get the result in full measure. He cannot avoid responsibility.
Why the focus on Africa at this point?
The news only cover, one side of Africa, so we always felt like the picture is incomplete, so we need the whole picture.
65% of these people, whom we term as the urban poor, live in settlements, otherwise known as slums.
This is just the tip of the iceberg of the road situations in Lagos, from the mainland to the island.
It's been a closed-door security meeting as the retreat for senior police officers hits day 3.
There's this basket or there's this bowl that we all come to the center to pick from. Everybody has to see Nigeria as an investment vehicle, not as a distributive mechanism.
Still on the foreign scenes, Russia has flatly denied allegations that is spreading disinformation about the new coronavirus outbreak on social media.
Australian Open debutant Coco Gauff defeated defending champion Naomi Osaka in 2 straight sets.
Kenneth Okonkwo, Kanayo and Bob Manuel Udoku have been conferred with the Veteran Actor of Nigeria Award.
This is Plus TV Africa.
Plus TV Africa.
Plus TV Africa.
Big stories live here.
In a world of overwhelming voices, where everyone has something to say,
it is important that we bring the core issues to the fore.
As we lend our voices to inspire, inform, influence, and provoke your thoughts and action.
We want to hear these issues and know what you are saying. This is not just women talking.
It is an evocative program that touches the core of our existence.
We take on topics some may consider taboo and want to sweep under the carpet.
We understand that what touches one touches all. We know you have a lot to say, so let's hear you.
Of course, having conversations on this morning, singer Tiwa Savage has revealed that she attempted suicide twice. On-air personality and reality TV star Ebuka Obi-Uchendu on Bounce Live Radio interviewed Tiwa Savage, where the singer revealed her struggle with depression. According to her, she attempted to take her own life as a result of the bullying she received as a black kid in London. In her words, "I was teased so bad, they used to call me African girl. It was terrible, it was so bad that I literally tried to kill myself 2 times. I was really depressed." Bringing it back to recent times when most artists want an international deal and get, of course, international recognition, which has become a recent trend in the entertainment industry. With a lot of our big names now relocating outside the country, nothing really has changed much, as racism is still very much around, and most of them fall into depression for the love of their craft. Social media has continuously been a contributory factor as well. And joining us now is our entertainment correspondent, Ife Oshunke, who will shed more light on artists who have revealed their struggles with depression.
Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Always a pleasure.
Give us an idea, some of these artists who have come out to publicly express their...
All right, so first of all, Wajay came out sometime last year saying that she was going to quit music and she didn't want to do it again, and that went really viral, and saying that she's been working but she's not seeing results for a lot of her work, and some of them fall into depression because after a certain time when you've been relevant in the industry and then you suddenly become very non-relevant, you start feeling some type of way. What am I doing wrong? Those are the questions you begin to ask yourself. Mo Cheddar is a close friend of mine. She fell into depression. Thank God she's now into a lot of other things right now that is taking her mind away from, okay, I used to be a big rap star in Nigeria, and she's doing other things. Now that's Mo Cheddar. Ari Song revealed about his depression as well. Now, let's take it to the international scenes. Demi Lovato, she fell into drugs because she was a child star, you know, and then Justin Bieber. We've seen a lot of that.
It's not, yes, they are celebrities, so they will get, but it's not peculiar to celebrities. Depression comes from, I mean, people experience it from different places. Isn't it something to know that fame is transient in most cases? Not everybody is lucky to be on the in the limelight, rather, for an indefinite period of time.
True. Everything you said is true. But if you think about it, fame is a very serious contributory factor because you have to keep up appearances, like keeping up with the Joneses. You just want to show people this is who I am, and most of the time it's not even who you are. Some of those people have an image to uphold, but it doesn't mean they want to be of their best behavior all the time. It doesn't mean they want to be of their worst behavior all the time. But there is a brand associated to them already that makes them do things differently. So I get where you're coming from, that it's not everybody, because we've seen successful movie stars and celebrities that didn't fall into depression and they still have their life in order. So it's relative. You don't even have to be a celebrity. Depression is very relative. I'm not an authority on the subject matter, but at least from the least I know and from the people I've spoken to in the medical field, it can happen to me, it can happen to you, and fame is definitely a contributory factor.
Do they need to know better about dealing with the pressure of fame?
Yes, I think that's where I would bring in the record labels, because when you're signing this artist and you're putting them under a lot of pressure, of course, there's a lot of money being made. So why are we not paying attention to their mental health as well? So if most of this record, I wouldn't say this like with full confidence, but I guess that a lot of record labels do not have a mental health session where they have people, you know, whenever you're feeling depressed, you can just walk in, speak to a shrink, speak to a therapist or somebody that can advise
that
you.
is something that is essential, should be part of
the music industry, because we've seen what fame has done to a lot of these people.
Social media is one, contributory factor.
Definitely.
The other day, I think it's Travis Scott, I understand, muted his Instagram page after he got backlash for his Halloween costume. And you have, you know, people targeting these celebrities for one reason or the other. So what is the trend for those who are successful? People like Will Smith and those who have been able to, and some local artists as well. Davido gives it back to them sometimes when they attack him. Not everybody has that mental strength. What can these people who, you know, fall into depression from social media attacks, from trolls, what can they learn from these are the biggest stars?
First of all, you